Some desires don't fade with age, we just stop daring to name them. But sometimes a single glance is all it takes to awaken what we thought had long been buried. It had been more than a year since I last wore that dress. It lacked significant insight. Soft beige cotton, hitting just above the knee, featuring a narrow waist and a neckline that danced on the edge of modesty and allure. Yet, the way it shifted with my steps, how it embraced the curve of my back, constantly hinted at a transformation I wasn't permitted to embrace. I chose it that evening, convincing myself jeans were too much for the heat. Windows ajar, dry air from the yard flowed in. My husband paced in the shadows by the hedge, phone pressed to his ear, deep in conversation with his brother. His voice remained unchanged. Calm, capable, perhaps slightly weary, a voice devoid of grievances, echoing emptiness and anticipation's absence. That tone once brought me solace. The room felt quieter now. At the kitchen counter, I sliced peaches for a tart I had no desire to bake. The aroma was sugary, excessively sugary. It adhered to my fingers, leaving a sticky sensation, the summer scent that evokes childhood, of messy meals and dress stains. Yet it brought back memories of how long it had been since anyone craved me genuinely. The gate's click snapped me from my reverie. I hesitated to glance up immediately. I recognized the figure. He arrived that morning, my husband's sister's son. At 25, fresh from grad school. I'm in the guest house for a few weeks, interning at a corporate gig nearby. He flickered in my memory, a gangly teen forever glued to his phone. He slipped in through the rear, his steps quiet and measured on the tiles. He stood in the kitchen archway, a paper bag in one hand, a small bottle of wine in the other. I figured I'd contribute to dinner, he remarked, gesturing to the bag. I offered a courteous smile, the sort reserved for unfamiliar faces or distant relatives. Thanks. How considerate. He appeared changed. Not merely older, yet still. As if he had mastered the art of presence, exuding confidence without the need for validation. He remained still. He surveyed the space calmly. He gazed straight at me, not beyond. I witnessed it. A mere glimmer. A moment in his gaze stretched just beyond the ordinary. He caught sight of the dress subtly. His gaze lingered, then darted back to my face as if he'd been discovered. My pulse quickened just a bit. The evening unfolded quietly. Patio dinner, my husband dominates the conversation, inquiring about the internship, sharing unsolicited advice through stories. I observed them through the glass while tidying up the dishes. Two souls, one essence, diverging paths. One aged, established, polished by habit. The other, ever evolving, ever inquisitive, ever questioning. With my book in hand, I settled onto the couch, the ceiling fan stirring the heavy air around me. My husband slipped into his study, grumbling about emails. The nephew mentioned he'd take a stroll before sleeping. The guest house door clicked shut shortly after. That was the point of conclusion. Yet it failed to do so. Sleep eluded me that night. Awake, I stared at the ceiling, sheets twisted, the fan above a slow metronome. His gaze lingered in my mind, impossible to shake off. It was not inappropriate. It lacked any hint of flirtation. It simply existed, conscious. I flipped over. My husband slept, breath steady. One arm lay across the bed, distant from me. Weeks had passed without his touch, devoid of desire. His affection had turned routine, akin to brushing teeth or securing the doors. Essential yet empty. I recalled how I once craved his touch, how to dress for him effortlessly. His hands would linger on my hips as I moved past him at the sink. The closeness faded gradually, slipping away unnoticed. Up to this point. The following morning, I selected my attire with intention, not explicitly. Nothing to arouse doubt. A shirt, sheer enough for the heat to reveal the delicate lace underneath. Light blue linen trousers. I avoided the mirror, keeping my gaze brief. I avoided questioning my actions. He stood in the kitchen as I descended. Wet hair, bare feet lost in the screen. He glanced up as I walked in, and that familiar silence lingered between us, yet extended this time. We conversed. Little details, favorite brews, conditions outside. A guesthouse air conditioner emitted an odd sound. Our chat lacked urgency, yet each word rippled like a pebble in calm water. I observed the subtle shifts in his face. In his stance, he stayed steady, neither approaching nor retreating. My husband stopped by, kissed my cheek, grabbed his laptop and headed to the office. I remained, he remained. As I reached for the sugar jar, our fingers grazed. Silence reigned, yet all transformed. From the upstairs window, I observed him crossing the yard later that day. Sunlight warmed the nape of his neck. Unbeknownst to him, I was there, observing. Perhaps he did. Both possibilities left me unsettled. I opened the drawer holding my forgotten clothes, items I donned when I embraced my identity beyond being a spouse. The silk met my fingertips, the delicate lace. Allow my fingers to glide over the fabric, reminiscent of memory. I shut the drawer, leaving its contents untouched, still pending. The choice was final. I simply hadn't voiced it. I reassured myself it would fade away. The abrupt rush of my breath in his presence. A tingling awareness enveloped me as he stepped into the room. It was merely a fleeting disruption, a primal response to closeness. To the new, I had tread lightly for days, maintaining the limits firm. Yet, I've discovered that silence can render boundaries more delicate. That morning, I lingered before my closet, lost in thought. Silence enveloped the house, a weighty morning hush that seems unreal in its stillness. I was certain he occupied the guest house. The curtains shifted. The door swung wide, sounds that signified a singular truth. I had listened to the water flowing through the pipes before, their cleansing ritual. There I was, gazing at the line of dresses seldom touched. Numerous still bore the tags. I just wanted something simple. I picked something gentle. Soft cream glided over my skin, grazing my knees with each step. I donned a delicate bra beneath, lace-edged elegance, barely discernible under the cloth. Yet I was aware of its presence. That sufficed. When I finally descended, the sun had risen high in the sky. Aroma of coffee and toasted bread filled the kitchen. He stood by the counter barefoot once more, clad in relaxed joggers, a moment frozen. Brief, not in a wrong way. Only just enough. I was on the verge of brewing another batch. He raised the carafe. Care for a taste? Absolutely, I replied, approaching the table. The atmosphere around us crackled with energy, yet remained relaxed. The atmosphere crackled, heavy with anticipation. A tension bruised beneath, poised to break free. I sat, hands trembling, seeking calm. He filled my cup, never inquiring about my preference. Always black. We conversed once more about emptiness. Our silences spoke volumes. He listened intently, truly heard. He watched me, his gaze unwavering. As countless others have, I had never experienced such gentle scrutiny before. An unasked question lingered in the air between us. As I leaned in for my cup, the strap of my dress slipped a bit. It was unintentional. Not quite. I delayed the fix. His gaze darted, lingering briefly before retreating. A surge welled within me. No shame, free of blame, yet warmth. We glanced toward the crunch of tires on gravel. The car rolled into the driveway, my husband at the wheel. He arrived ahead of time. His arrival surprised me. I thought I had more time. It was the moment fear first gripped me. Not due to any wrongdoing, but because I recognized a desire I could no longer overlook. He entered, bags in hand, wearing that smile I knew well, a soft kiss on my cheek. Inquired if we required anything. He spotted the coffee. I cracked a joke about always snagging the final cup. We chuckled together. A moment straight out of a light-hearted comedy. Yet, his nephew's proximity lingered in my mind. The afternoon slipped away in a haze of tasks and monotony. I occupied my time with laundry, emails, and organizing drawers that were already tidy. Anything to stay indoors, away from his presence. Anything to quiet the chaos within. It failed. After dinner, as the kitchen fell silent and the sun dipped low, casting golden hues through the windows, I ventured onto the back patio with a glass of wine. At first, he was invisible to me. I never sought him out. There he sat, perched on the wooden bench, elbows resting on knees, phone clutched in hand, twilight casting a flattering glow on his face. He glanced up as I neared, and we paused, uncertain if this moment was ours. "I never expected to see anyone else out here," he remarked. "I didn't either," I responded, placing my glass on the tiny side table. I ought to have returned indoors. 10 reasons existed. I sat beside him, just out of reach, yet close enough to sense the warmth of his skin in the air between us. We conversed once more, this time about books of all subjects. He had taken one from the guest house. The title escapes me entirely. I recall how he gripped it, his voice lowering as he read a line out loud. In that moment, 2 adults whispered, the garden cloaked in shadows, an intimacy too profound for the world around us. So I spoke. "I can't recall at all. A jest, perhaps." "Oh, how original," he chuckled. Not a courteous chuckle. A genuine laugh erupted, and amid it, he playfully nudged my shoulder. Yet it lacked playfulness. I turned to him, and the laughter vanished. His hand remained steady. I stayed put, uncertain of who initiated the closeness. Perhaps it was neither of us. Perhaps we just moved closer to the heart of something that had been brewing for days. When our eyes met and silence deepened between us, time stood still. It was never taken. It dragged on. Silent words linger. So genuine. His lips were warm and hesitant, as if seeking consent. Mine responded before thought could catch up. I sensed it all around me, in my spine, in my stomach, in the pulse at my wrist. My hand brushed against his jaw, almost instinctively. His gesture hovered near but never crossed. Next, a whisper. Perhaps a bird. A branch groans. It drew us in, tethering us together. He gazed my way. I turned my gaze. Silence enveloped us. I stood still, glass abandoned, heart pounding as if he could hear it too. I approached the house. Slow. I wasn't running away, yet every step weighed more than the one before. I gazed into the mirror in the bathroom. I appeared the same, yet all was different now. I brushed my lips. No drama here. Let's not idealize it. Yet they remained warm. Living. Every part of my face did. I hit the hay early. I mentioned to my husband that I had a headache. He proposed to fetch me tea. No. In the dark, I lingered, fixated on the ceiling. The fans hum, my only companion. Yet, this time my body seemed to belong to another. Not for him. Not to the one resting next to me, yet for me. And to a truth I couldn't ignore. He steered clear of me the following day. It was subtle. He exhibited courtesy. Considerate. Only respond when addressed. Yet, the silence lingered once more. Like a forgotten dream we both chose to ignore. It was reality. The memory lingered on my lips, his absence a chill against my skin. His gaze no longer held the same warmth as it once did. He completely ignored me. He lingered only to snatch his toast and coffee at breakfast. He mentioned an early call with a company representative. My husband was oblivious. He didn't. He flipped through emails, one hand on his mug, the other scrolling absent-mindedly. I fought to keep it hidden. I arranged the table as usual, inquired about the day's meetings, and volunteered to collect the dry cleaning. Monotony, that's what marriage turned into. A dance of tiny gestures and routine actions. My husband smiled as he expressed his gratitude, the identical grin he offered to the mailman and the neighbor. It was too familiar and I loathed it. I despised that it once sufficed. Spent the morning clearing the downstairs closet, bagging old shoes, folding forgotten scarves. A distraction was necessary. The motion anchored my thoughts, yet despite the rows of boots, I was drawn back to the previous night. Text when our eyes met and silence deepened between us. His hand cupped my jaw with such tenderness. He stepped back, fear flickering in his eyes at how right it had felt. By noon I surrendered. I snatched my keys and announced my trip to the market. My husband nodded, his gaze fixed on the screen. I ventured to the distant store, known for its pricey produce and a quaint cafe serving good espresso. No groceries needed. I craved air that wasn't tainted by our home. I had to stop reliving that kiss. Outside, coffee in hand, sunglasses shielding my eyes, I feigned interest in my phone. The sun blazed, the metal chair chilled. Yet I lingered for almost an hour, cradling the same cup, evading my reflection in the cafe window. I paused at the bookstore on my way home. Just another excuse. I strolled through the aisles, letting my fingers glide over the spines. I had no specific aim in mind. I craved the comfort of obscurity. To be a woman who enjoyed fiction and herbal tea, not one falling apart in her own kitchen. That's when I spotted them. He and my oldest friend. They stood at the front, laughter echoing around them. Her hand rested on his arm, easy, intimate. She wore her soft pink lipstick, the one she claimed made her look friendly yet composed. She leaned in just a touch closer. He stayed close. I went unnoticed. I stood still, a paperback gripped in my hand, its presence a surprise to me. My breath hitched, not from fear of being found, but from a deep, unsettling twist within me. I never knew jealousy could hit me so hard. Neither hot nor wild, just cold, a gradual chill infiltrating the flesh. He spoke, and her laughter echoed once more. That laugh was all too familiar, easy and breezy. He looked at the exit, poised to depart, while her hand gently released his arm after a brief squeeze. I slipped away unnoticed. My heart pounded, a relentless drum in my ears. I never purchased the book. In the car I lingered, hands clutching the wheel, gaze lost in the void. I felt no anger. Not quite. I felt out of place, as if something I never owned was already gone. I prepared dinner that night. Simple as that. Lemon-infused chicken. Charred veggies. Vino. Structure was essential. Aroma lingers. Oil sizzles in the pan. He returned, brushed his lips against my cheek, and sifted through the letters. He never inquired about my day. I refrained from offering. On the patio, beneath the dimming sun, I poured the wine, observing the red swirl in the glass. He mentioned a conflict brewing at the office, a rift between departments. I nodded, shared a few thoughts, chuckled at the right moments. His nephew's absence weighed on me, a phantom ache. He skipped dinner with us. Claimed a headache required rest. I should have known. Once the dishes were cleared and my husband retreated indoors to wrap up his report, I lingered outside. The cicadas buzzed. A plane flew low, etching a faint line in the darkening sky. He emerged an hour later, treading softly on the grass. He paused, hands tucked in pockets. The quiet between us had changed. Fuller lingered, holding the weight of our unspoken words. I spotted you at the bookstore, I remarked, eyes averted. He hesitated, then spoke gently. I didn't realize you were paying attention. She chuckled at all your words, I added. My tone lacked accusation, yet a sharpness lingered beneath. He adjusted his stance. Her laughter came first. I turned because of that. You're avoiding me, I said, hating the starkness of my words in the silence. He nodded, a deliberate motion. I expected it to be simpler. For whom? Our gazes finally collided. Is this for us both? A moment lingered. I can't do this, he murmured. What to do? Act as if it never occurred? He breathed out. Act as if it held no significance. The wind stirred, gentle and refreshing. The dress danced gently around my legs. We lingered, two shadows beneath a weighty sky. It was unplanned, I murmured. I'm aware. No regrets here. This time silence reigned. He advanced just a single step, then halted. The gap between us lessened but remained, filled with all that we couldn't articulate. I pivoted and stepped back indoors. As I walked through the living room, my husband glanced up from his laptop. Have you given the basil some water? He inquired. Indeed I did. All is well. Yet everything was amiss. That night I undressed with care, folding each garment with precision, almost robotically. I crawled into bed next to a man who hadn't pressed his lips to mine in weeks. I averted my gaze, and when his hand brushed my hip, even in slumber I recoiled. Not that I shunned contact, but I longed for another's touch. I was lost in how to cope with it. My husband brought home roses the next morning just because he mentioned the florist nearby had them on sale, believing they could liven up the kitchen. I placed them in a clear glass vase by the window, letting the sunlight enhance their romantic allure. They had no scent at all. He pressed his lips to my forehead, briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other. "I ask you as always," before heading to the office. I stood at the door, watching him reverse the car down the driveway, pondering how long it had been since I kissed him with true emotion. Weeks, perhaps months, or even more. Intimacy wanes softly, like daylight retreating at dusk. It goes unseen until darkness envelopes you. I drifted through the morning, lost in fragmented thoughts. Fridge cleared, sheets swapped, winterwear stored away. Ordinary duties intentionally selected. Thinking was not on my agenda. The garden conversation was one I wished to forget. His voice, a whisper of truth, declared he could no longer feign. We stood near, yet neither dared to touch. At noon, I glimpsed my reflection in the mirror atop the stairs. A faint line appeared on my forehead, unnoticed until now. My hair required a cut, my skin appeared weary. I pressed my lips once more, seeking to rekindle that lost spark. The sensation of his lips, the still warmth that remained long after. I entered the bedroom and opened the drawer holding the lingerie I seldom wore now. I once purchased it to embody a specific type of wife, engaged, charming, spirited. Yet I had ceased to care long ago. He never saw it, and eventually I overlooked it too. I retrieved a navy blue bra, adorned with sheer lace, along with matching underwear. I pressed it to me, if only for a moment. The mirror spoke truth. I looked sharp, not youthful, not like that, yet breathing. In that instant, I understood how profoundly I craved the sensation of being seen. The phone vibrated on the nightstand. A note from him. Apologies for last night. Can we chat? Clear terms, yet they resonated profoundly and instantly within me. A tap on glass can jolt you awake. Not due to the noise, but because you were unaware of your breath's pause. I paused for 30 minutes before responding. Sure, I'll be in the garden post 3. Time dragged on. I shifted the patio chairs 2 times. Brewed tea untouched. Transformed into a gentle, airy essence. A blouse that teased the skin, yet held back just enough. A linen skirt that swayed with my every step. I assured myself this outfit wasn't for him, yet I was aware of it. I stepped outside at 3 and settled under the sprawling maple tree. The garden thickened recently, vines twist around the trellis. Lavender blossoms line the stony way. The scent of summer lingered, fiery, keen, and unsettled. The gate creaked open behind me. He strolled, hands tucked in jeans, gaze steady yet obscured. He delayed his seat. He lingered nearby, gazing down at me as if weighing his right to be present. I never intended to hurt you, he murmured. I didn't, I replied, though that wasn't completely accurate. He gazed beyond me at the rose bushes bordering the fence. He added, surprised to see her there, referring to my friend. She connects with all, I remarked. It holds no significance. But it mattered to you, he said, finally meeting my gaze once more. No reply came. The silence lingered, not uncomfortable, merely rich. Brimming with unspoken words from that evening, brimming with the unspoken kiss. The desire we both sought to hide. I don't want this to be a mistake, he said, moving in closer. I cocked my head. So make it count. He sat next to me, distant, untouched. His proximity stole my breath away. His cologne lingered, subtle and fresh, while the warmth of his skin approached like a rising tide. We conversed. It's not the kiss that matters. Not concerning its significance, yet concerning the little details, the internship he undertook, his reflections on the city. Expectations bore down on him from every angle. He expressed himself more candidly than ever. I heard, not merely with interest but with a fierce appetite, yearning for authenticity. Raw, not executed. He reclined, arms stretched behind, face basking in the sun's warmth. The motion pulled the fabric tight against his torso. My gaze tracked the motion, my body tensing in ways I couldn't hide. As he faced me once more, I held his gaze. You keep doing that, he remarked. Huh. Gazing at me as if I'm oblivious. My cheeks burned, yet no smile graced my lips. You observe it all, I remarked. I see you. The words lingered between us, a flickering flame. Next came the change. He leaned in, deliberate and careful. I met him halfway. This kiss differed from the first. This contained both a query and a response. This one stayed. His presence felt closer than ever. I traced my fingers along his jawline. Our lips parted with deliberate slowness. Intentionally. Unhurried, calm and composed. Yet brimming with the control we sought to uphold. Our kiss felt hard-won. We both feared the depth of our need. As we separated, I lingered with my eyes shut, savoring the moment just a heartbeat longer. Then I whispered, I refuse to quit. He nodded, our foreheads touching. So don't. I stood, legs trembling, smoothing the creases of my skirt. He stayed behind. He observed me return to the house, noting the sway of my hips, the curve of my back. I sensed it, even without a glance, that he craved more. The house had a distinct aura within. The atmosphere dense, the stillness profound. I ascended, perched on the bed's edge, and lingered. Moments later, the guest house door swung open. 10 more steps, and his footsteps echoed on the stone path once more. Yet he stopped short this time. He paused under the window, gazing upward, hands relaxed at his sides. I observed him closely, observed his choice of restraint, observed him engulfed by the very flames that began to devour me. I left the curtain open. The morning after was unusually still, as if the house had conspired to remain silent. The floorboards beneath me creaked softly, wary of my every step. Sleep eluded me, not out of guilt but from a deeper, more disturbing source. Expectation. All that remained was bare truth, unfiltered and raw. A boundary was breached. 2 times. Not quite like that, not quite as intense. Yet it was clear that pretense had run its course. I didn't grasp its meaning then, but I knew it had occurred. It transformed me. It wasn't the kisses, but the lingering emotions they left behind. As if my skin had become a stranger, as if I had donned another's skin, finally aware of the ease it brought. That day my outfit was chosen with precision, not caught in the typical cycle of dressing just to fill the gap before the next task, yet with purpose. The sun blazed, and the forecast warned of sweltering days ahead. I donned a cream skirt with a graceful slit and a light blouse tied at the waist. Underneath, an unworn bra waited. Rich emerald silk. A long-forgotten gift to myself, hidden away in a drawer. He stood in the kitchen as I descended, relaxed in loungewear, still damp from a recent shower, drinking water next to the fridge. He faced away. The morning light glinted off the shifting muscles beneath his skin as he reached for something. I lingered in the doorway, unseen, and for a fleeting instant simply observed. He pivoted at the echo of my steps. His gaze flicked across me, then paused. Pretense had vanished. No deliberate evasion. His eyes revealed it all. I filled a glass with water to hide the tremor in my hands. Silence enveloped us. He rested against the counter, arms folded. The gap between us was tight, yet we remained still. My husband entered moments later, laptop tucked under his arm, tie already loosened, as if ready to unravel the day before it even started. He brushed my cheek with a kiss, murmured something about traffic and meetings, then shifted his focus to his nephew. Are you all settled in? Is everything functioning in the guest house? He replied, barely meeting my gaze. All is well. They shared a few more words. I lost track. I nodded, smiled, and made the right sounds. My body thrummed with unexpressed tension. The morning's weight bore down on me. The moment my husband departed, an overwhelming silence enveloped the space. No words were exchanged. Still waiting. Stepped onto the patio, coffee in hand, observing the wind dance through the garden. Moments later, he trailed behind. He lingered at the stone path's edge, uncertain of how near he could approach. My heart raced more than I wished. I didn't sleep, he finally admitted. I gazed upward. I didn't either. He sat next to me, this time closed off. His thigh grazed against mine. A mere touch ignited a spark within, awakening what I had long concealed. His hand hovered near mine, not quite touching, but close enough to sense the warmth emanating from his skin. What's happening? He inquired. I hesitated to respond. No answer came to me, yet I couldn't feign a desire to quit. I have no idea, I replied. I wish it wouldn't end. He nodded, gaze falling to his hands. I ponder it constantly. Me, last night. I'm unable to cease. I faced him. The garden faded from view. Only the line of his jaw, the tension in his throat, the way he held himself, fighting to stay intact. I want to feel close again, whatever that means, he said softly, a simple truth, no demands, no games, just go for it. He did. This one felt unique, profound, and unrestrained. I lifted my hand, fingers weaving into his hair at the nape of his neck. His lips pressed against mine, urgent and desperate, igniting a response in my body before thought could catch up. He drew me in. The fabric shifted softly, easing a bit. My unnoticed by anyone but me. His breath brushed my ear as we separated, hands gently placed on my waist. We lingered, entwined and gasping, the garden whirling about us. Midday struck. Radiant and boldly bare, we were unbothered. I straightened, smoothed my hair, and regained my composure. His gaze met mine, a fresh discovery unfolding. Not merely a spouse or a passing whim, but a longing steeped in genuine yearning. Feeling fear? I inquired. Yes, he replied. But I don't want to quit. I didn't either. I entered craving space, something to grasp. The house seemed transformed, more luminous. Perhaps I had changed within it now. That night, post-dinner, amid the familiar calm, I glanced at my husband by the sink, drying wine glasses with his usual distant look at day's end. I believe we should take a break, I said. He paused, gazed at me. His face showed no immediate reaction. A pause from what? From us, I declared. He blinked with deliberation. The stillness weighed heavily. You can't be serious. I exist. He slammed the glass onto the counter, producing a jarring sound. I believed everything was okay. The issue lies there, I remarked. All seems well, yet I am not. He sought no clarifications. He kept his voice steady. He didn't do it like that. He nodded, retreated, and exited the room. Later, in solitude, I perched on the bed's edge, gazing at my image in the mirror. My hair cascaded over my shoulders, lips tender and swollen, skin aglow. After years, I finally appeared as if I craved more. I stopped feeling the need to apologize for it. I sent a message before turning off the lights. Feel free to linger as long as you wish. The response arrived swiftly. Absolutely. As I settled into that oversized bed, I realized my life would never revert to its former state. Silence enveloped the unspoken events. No need for that. Following that final kiss and the talk with my husband, the house started to shift around me. Silently, as if shadows shift silently in the dark. He stayed in the guest house. My husband shifted to the smaller bedroom down the hall, claiming he woke earlier and wished not to disrupt my sleep. It was spoken with courtesy, like a graceful departure from an uncomfortable dinner table. We shared morning coffee still. We inquired about one another's plans. Yet, the closeness had vanished. Only the remnants of politeness remained. Courteous, whole yet completely empty. I started venturing outside more often. Chores, meandering strolls in the park, endless hours lost in bookstores. I spoke the truth. No, I've begun selecting which truths to voice. We became bolder in our quietude. We remained untouched in the light. That day in the garden marked the end of kisses. The atmosphere shifted between us. Each fleeting look, each breath exchanged in the corridor, each fleeting moment in the kitchen held significance. He saw when I changed my look. Not always obvious, yet in the way his gaze lingered on the neckline of a blouse, or how it trailed after me when I looked back. I began to dress with that understanding, not in a provocative manner. That missed the mark. Yet intentionally, sheer textiles, gentle hues, lingerie selected just for me, silk, lace, and soft hues ignited a sense of rediscovery within me. I focused on the outline of my reflection in the glass. The way my collarbone shimmered in specific lights. It was not about vanity. It was a revival. Once we shared lunch in a cozy cafe nestled between a bookstore and an old theater in the heart of downtown. A spot with splintered tables and grimy panes. It happened spontaneously. I casually brought it up the previous night while doing the dishes. The following afternoon he arrived. Anticipating. We kept our distance. No contact was made. His gaze pierced through my words. I sensed it all around. I convinced myself that if we stayed within boundaries we could manage it. Desire doesn't operate that way. Longing waits quietly. It lingers in the shadows, observing until a single instant. Just a breath, fleeting look, shatters the facade of mastery. That Tuesday it all unfolded. Evening descends. The house stood silent. My husband was off to a conference in another city for the night. Returning from the market, I began unloading groceries. The fridge's cool air caresses my calves. The door creaked and I turned to see him there, shirt stuck to his chest, heat radiating from outside. Silence enveloped him. I didn't either. We simply locked eyes. My hands are still brimming with apples. His eyes flicked to my waist where my blouse had hiked up. He advanced, gradually, as if he offered me a way out. I did not, yet he never laid a finger on me. He casually reached past me, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge. His arm grazed mine and I gasped. He unscrewed the cap, drank, then rested against the counter. "You've changed," he remarked. I arched an eyebrow. In what way? As if anticipation hangs in the air. I gulped. "Perhaps I am." He placed the bottle down. The space seemed more confined. "Do you think he has any suspicions?" he inquired, still waiting. "Yet he will." "I'm aware." He nodded, a deliberate motion. "Gently now. What will you do?" No response came. I was unaware. That night I lingered in the bathroom, towel draped, droplets clinging to my skin. I gazed at my reflection, steam swirling at the mirror's edges. My body remained unchanged. Yet I sensed a transformation within me. Not due to any of his actions, yet due to the person I was evolving into in his presence. I donned a navy blue nightgown. Clear, silk whispers against my thighs. Once years back I wore it on a vacation with my husband, when everything felt fresh. He missed it back then. Now donning it once more, I found I no longer craved his gaze. I craved its touch on my skin. The bedroom light remained off. A door clicked shut in the distance. The gentle click of his guesthouse door. I stayed away from him, still pending. Instead, I went to bed alone, lying in the dark, my heartbeat echoing in long-forgotten places of life. By morning, he had vanished, left a note on the table. Meeting across town. Returning late. I gazed at the script for ages. It was cool. Exact. Modest. I ran my finger over the ink, sensing it contained something deeper. Days dragged on. He maintained his space. I held back. We waited together. Not from fear, but from a silent agreement that crossing the next line meant no return. Then the call arrived. "My husband is at his conference." He seemed weary. "A change has occurred," he stated. "Returning ahead of schedule." "When's the start time?" "This evening." The phone screen glowed, my gaze lingering even after silence fell. That evening, the house resumed its familiar cadence. Keys clatter into the bowl by the door. Soft footsteps whisper on the mat. The gentle murmur of the TV nearby. His lips brushed against my cheek. A smile crept across my face. I inquired about his flight. He shared tales of turbulence and tasteless hotel coffee. For the first time in weeks, we shared the same bedtime. He reclined next to me, a hand on my hip. I stayed still, not gone. Still distant. Simply motionless. In that silence, I sensed a subtle change had occurred once more. I was no longer deciding between two men, but rather two versions of who I could be. The woman I once was, obedient, reliable, invisible, was fading more with each day. I felt no grief for her. I released her. He departed at dawn, silent as the shadows. Not my spouse. The alternative. The sole presence that left a hollow pain within me. The car pulled away as I stepped from the shower. A fleeting view through the slats shows his shadow at the helm. No message, none needed. Vanished. I convinced myself it meant nothing. Perhaps he had errands, an interview, or an appointment across town. I promised myself to ignore the quiet. Don't take it to heart. Naturally, I did. Silence, while anticipating something greater, is never void. It's a burden. My husband slipped back into his routines, resuming his role with effortless grace. Labor, dialogue, rest. He never inquired about my silence at breakfast. He remained silent as I stirred my coffee endlessly, or how I pretended to ignore my phone while glancing at it repeatedly. He overlooked it. That's what complicated things. By afternoon, the silence grew intolerable. I dispatched a brief, careful note. Is everything okay? Silence. I continued to check. Every 10, every 5. Every time I placed the phone down, a new surge of embarrassment washed over me. Perhaps this was his method of retreat. To realign our straight path. Perhaps he chose to let things remain unchanged. 2 pecks. Few fleeting looks. A flame we toyed with yet never allowed to ignite. The idea drained me. I floated through the day. I cleaned, folded laundry, and made dinner. Tasks devoid of thought, yet they framed the pause. My husband stayed late at work. Devoured swiftly, withdrew to the study. He bid good night at 10. I nodded, remaining on the sofa. The screen glows, casting shadows in the dim space. Sound muted, I can hear my heartbeat. My phone buzzed at 11. Is tomorrow good for you? I must see you. Just 7 words. That was enough for my body to release a breath. I replied with deliberate slowness, feigning nonchalance after a long wait. Absolutely. Let me know when. The response arrived in a flash. Let's rendezvous in Redmond. Intersection of 6th and Oak. It's 1 o'clock. None needed. No explanation needed. I fixed my gaze on the message, then the clock. In 14 hours I would meet him once more. Questions flooded my mind. What's the reason for that location? What did he mean to express? What did he believe had shifted? Yet it all felt insignificant. He requested a meeting with me. That sufficed. Sleep eluded me. The following morning, I dressed with an unfamiliar precision. A delicate, sleeveless top in soft ivory, pants that embraced my hips subtly, heels that command my stride. Below? The identical emerald silk bra, the one that restored my sense of self. I mentioned to my husband that I needed to run some errands in town. He hardly glanced away from his screen. He inquired about me grabbing more coffee. Promised I would. 40 minutes to Redmond. The sky wore a soft, washed-out gray. It transformed every moment into a scene from a film. The corner was easy to find, a quaint cafe, adorned with black awnings and uneven flower boxes perched in the windows. I parked a short distance away, my heart racing with each step closer to him. He sat outside, coffee in hand, sunglasses perched, one leg casually crossed over the other. In that instant he seemed aged. Not by years but by mass. As if a weight had descended upon him, or perhaps inside him. He rose at the sight of me. I took my seat before he had a chance to say anything. Silence hung between us, a moment stretched thin. The street hummed with life. Vehicles rush, footsteps echo, dishes clink within. Yet our silence had transformed. Felt certain. It buzzed with energy. Appreciate your presence. The last he spoke. I confessed I wasn't certain you'd wish to see me again. He glanced down, then lifted his gaze, his expression measured. Space was essential. To ponder. So. He leaned in, elbows resting on the table. Position was offered to me. Beyond the borders. The words hit hard, icy and sharp. When did you find out? Several days. Why didn't you say anything? I was uncertain of my desires. I gulped. The knot in my throat stayed put. What now? Our eyes locked. The shades were removed. I'd rather stay. With a measured breath I let it out, calm intertwined with chaos. The next words had to be mine. I had no idea what they were. I wish you would stay too. I spoke, my voice almost a breath. Yet you're still tied in matrimony. I'm still deciphering its meaning. His jaw tightened. Not in rage, in control. I won't linger as your hidden truth. He spoke. Are you not? Never again. He acknowledged with a nod. Yet I sensed his disbelief. Still waiting. Logistics went unmentioned. It's not about household management or conversations with my husband, or where we might escape unnoticed. It was all irrelevant. For the first time since it all began, we stopped pretending. I desire you. I spoke. With a subtle smile he rose. Join me. I didn't inquire about the location. I trailed behind. We strolled the tight alleys of downtown, arriving at a quaint bookstore nestled between a laundromat and a record shop. It seemed frozen in time, untouched for ages. Timber racks, groaning boards, the aroma of aged pages and grime. Silently we roamed the aisles. Sometimes our fingers grazed. We ended up in the back corner, concealed by a shelf of art books. Silence hung in the air. Our fingers intertwined. I stayed close. Amidst dusty tomes and worn leaves, he drew closer. The kiss felt unique once more. This felt sluggish, respectful. A kiss that seeks no consent, for it understands the unspoken truth. My back pressed into the bookshelf. His hand glided along my jaw. The other settled on my waist. My form fused with his. Every part of me recalls precisely why I desired this, reasons for my inability to return. As we separated, I gazed up at him, gasping for air. I must return shortly, I stated. He'll realize my absence soon enough. He nodded, yet remained still. I'm not going anywhere, he declared, only if you request it. In that moment, I realized everything was different. Once more, this time fear eluded me. I arrived home just as the sun dipped below the horizon. Sunlight spilled over the kitchen floor, warm and golden, a light that softens reality's edges. My husband sat at the counter, a cup of coffee cooling beside him. A newspaper rests in his lap. He glanced my way upon my arrival, yet remained silent. He glanced at the clock, then returned his gaze to me. He never inquired about my whereabouts. I chose not to offer. I approached the sink, letting the water flow as I washed my hands, mesmerized by its spiral descent into the drain. The weight of his lips lingered on mine. The scent of aged pages lingered softly on my blouse. I remained the same. I had no desire to. I wished for the proof to stay just a moment more. It intensified the reality of it all. Did you grab the coffee? My husband inquired. I acknowledged. It's inside the vehicle. I'll drop it off later. Silence enveloped us for the remainder of the night. The meal passed in silence. Leftovers were consumed: roasted chicken, steamed rice, a salad dressed in haste. He scanned the news on his tablet, chewing deliberately, murmuring softly to himself now and then. I sat opposite him, observing the candles flicker, aware of the dwindling light in our shared space. He settled into the living room, sprawled on the couch, the TV murmuring softly. I lingered in the kitchen, polishing a spotless counter, folding a dish towel meticulously. The quiet between us held no animosity, felt known. The quiet of those who had exhausted their inquiries. I lingered, observing him from the threshold. I pondered when my love for him had faded, or if it had ever truly existed. I cared, just not in the way you expected. I did. He was a decent man. Steady, dependable, softly distant, yet gentle. The distance between us expanded slowly, silently, until it became too vast to bridge without shattering something. I had already shattered something. That night, I lay in bed next to him, dressed completely. He extinguished the light, leaving me untouched. No kiss, no farewell, no lingering looks. Only shadows. His breath evened out, lost in sleep, while I lay awake, fingers dancing through the air, sketching unseen forms against the ceiling. No sleep for me. The bookstore lingered in my mind. His hand found mine fearless. His kiss lingered in my memory, not resembling a thief. Not as if someone is taking something illicit, but rather as if someone is asserting ownership of what he thinks is rightfully his. The following morning, the air weighed down. A tempest approached. The sky was slate, wind pressing against the windows relentlessly. Before dawn, I brewed coffee, its aroma ascending like a vow. I craved solitude. I craved breath. A note rests on the counter. Strolled outside. Returning shortly, no one would inquire about the location. I drove aimlessly, the streets both known and foreign. Memories linger in every corner. Every location we conversed, connected, and gazed held significance. They were all carved into the landscape of my routine. I walked by the cafe, the bookstore, the park where memories of my husband lingered. In a life that felt distant, in the end I stood by the water. Silence enveloped the bay. The tide recedes. Fog enveloped the horizon. I parked the car, strolled to the pier's edge, hands in pockets, hair swirling around me. The breeze numbed my flesh yet sharpened my thoughts. He claimed he'd stay put unless I told him to go. I hadn't. I had no intention of doing so. I perched on a bench by the shore, eyes shut tight. I envisioned what lies ahead. Not the polished tale with flawless outcomes, but something genuine, chaotic, imperfect, constructed from fragments of the past and the potential of the future. I saw him there. Not merely a dream, not in defiance, yet as a person I desire by my side. Not to flee but to be here. Upon arriving home, I found my husband pruning the hedges in the garden. He glanced upward, beads of sweat forming on his forehead, gloves secured at his waist. I gestured, beamed, continued on. Uncertain if he saw the distance in my eyes or simply ignored it, the door to the guest house stood ajar. He sat on the small couch by the window, a book resting on his lap, one leg tucked beneath him. His gaze met mine as I walked in, and his face changed in an instant, a blend of worry and solace. "Everything all right?" he inquired, standing up. I had to ponder. So, the door clicked shut. I refused to return to my former self. He acknowledged, "I never expected you to." We faced each other in that small room, the birthplace of it all. The room now felt more like home than any other part of the main house. "Uncertainty looms ahead," I spoke, still searching for answers. "I want to solve this with you." His expression remained unchanged, yet I noticed a shift in his shoulders, a burden he bore for weeks. "I'm not requesting a decision today," he stated. I needed confirmation that this was real. It wasn't only me. "You're not alone," I spoke. "It has always been more than you." He moved in. Just a whisper away, our arms nearly touched. Yet he never laid a finger on me. Still pending. The silence between us spoke volumes, a subtle, profound closeness that spoke louder than any kiss. "I must leave," I murmured. He nodded, yet remained still. "Remain." He spoke. The term was gentle. "It's not an order, not a request, simply a gift." I glanced at the door, then returned my gaze to him. I remained. We remained apart. Not that evening. We conversed, concerning all and none, reflecting on our past selves before our paths crossed, concerning the destinations we wished to visit, concerning the dread lurking behind each heartbeat and breath. As rain tapped on the windows, we lingered in silence, enveloped in warmth, near yet distant. We had the time. For the first time in years, I craved more. Autumn arrived, a silent visitor with no intention of departing. The mornings turned sharp, crisp enough to prompt a sweater before coffee. Leaves fell quietly, painting the yard in hues of change, an unhurried unraveling that reflected a part of me. The home transformed with the seasons. My husband spoke less, savored the mail, spaced out his work trips. Meals were still shared. We folded the laundry together. Yet we ceased to seek one another in the dark. We stopped pretending altogether. He remained silent. It's not about the destination. It wasn't about my appearance upon returning. At times I questioned if he was aware. Did he always know? Yet what dwelt behind his gaze remained hidden. His silence spoke volumes. It was surrender, the kind that follows a prolonged dry spell, when the earth has surrendered hope for rain. The guest house beckoned me increasingly. Times simply to be still, contemplate, to inhale in a realm devoid of duty. At times he appeared, times he fell short. Yet it always seemed like a piece of me, unclaimed, yet selected. One afternoon I carried a small tray, 2 cups of coffee, a dish of buttery shortbread delights, neatly folded napkins, a gesture of goodwill. Yet tranquility eluded us. Clarity was essential, and time, and room to confront questions we had long evaded. He glanced up from his notebook as I walked in. His gaze found mine as if he had been anticipating it, not in haste, absolutely certain I'd arrive. I placed the tray on the tiny table by the window and took a seat opposite him. "Cookies precede your tough words." He smiled faintly as he spoke. I was unaware it formed a pattern. Many actions go unnoticed. He filled the cup with coffee. Silence enveloped us as we drank. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore," I admitted. "Uncertainty clouds my sense of belonging." "You're not an object to be positioned," he said softly. "Find your place where life pulses strongest." My gaze met his. "So it's not here?" "No," he replied. "Perhaps, but not in this way. Out in the open." not just a segment of your life hidden between tasks. I gulped. The truth weighed heavy in my chest. This was never my intention. I'm aware. Escape wasn't on my radar. He said you weren't escaping anything. You sought to recall your identity. That made me want to cry. Not from sorrow, but from acknowledgement. It felt like ages since anyone truly saw me. No explanations needed. He required nothing of me. In that freedom, I found more of myself than in years of cautious living. I said I required some time. I spoke. What was his statement? He told me it was mine. He acknowledged with a nod. Do you trust him? Unsure. He placed his mug on the table. Do you still have feelings for him? I pondered deeply. I cherish our past selves, who I imagined us to be. Yet I'm unsure if I love who we are now. He held back. This is my choice. I spoke softly, not for ease, thrill, or novelty. Yet it resonates with authenticity. Select it, he uttered. Seize it wholeheartedly. Yet I did not. Not today. I returned to the house, lingering by the front door for nearly 10 minutes. The wind pulled at my coat. I gazed through the window at the living room, the sofa we purchased together, the artwork I selected for the corridor. His political biographies lined the shelves beside my paperbacks. A life meticulously crafted, layer upon layer over time. He sat in his familiar chair, engrossed in a book. The TV whispered softly in the background. A golden glow radiated from the lamp beside him. His gaze met mine as I stepped in, our gazes locked. In an instant, a spark ignited between us. Not rage, not a trace of sorrow, yet a subtle acknowledgement. Recognizing the close of a season, I skipped the guest house that night. I lingered in my room, packed a tiny suitcase, and perched on the bed's edge as the moon glided past the window. Morning coffee brewed. A note was written. Space is essential. Not from indifference, but from deep concern. I'll reach out when I can talk straight. I said enough. He remained in slumber as I departed. No tears fell in the car. Not even as I passed the well-known landmarks. The market, the school we once considered for the kids, the cafe where we marked anniversaries with rehearsed smiles. I headed north, aimless and free. The suitcase vibrates softly in the back seat. The quiet in the car felt oddly soothing. I found myself in a seaside town 3 hours distant, a quaint motel, its whitewashed walls whispering stories, rooms infused with hints of salt and cedar. I prepaid for a week. I unpacked with care. The windows swung wide. On the balcony, I observed the tides advance. He rang that night. I allowed it to ring. Not for lack of desire to hear him, but for my unpreparedness to respond. Still waiting, I chose to write. I penned all the words I feared to voice. Regarding the years of quietude, gradual fading of contact, I felt unseen, burdened by guilt for my emotions. His gaze reminded me of my presence. It wasn't sent. Yet it was essential to put pen to paper. For days I wandered, contemplating. Recollection. Indecision reigns, still waiting. On the 5th day, I gazed from the window as the sea thundered against the rocks below. I remembered him, not my spouse. The one who lingered, unhopeful. The person who said I didn't require placement. I understood I had stopped fleeing. I was coming back. For me, to an unnamed something. I grabbed the phone. This time I made the first call.